And I'm also reminded of the Albert Hirschman who said, exit voice loyalty. Loyalty is very important. You have to voice whatever concern you have. At the end, exit as an option is always there. If you choose the exit as an option in a public policy, you become fatalistic and difficult one. With these thoughts, which comes from my heart, my own autobiographical understanding, thank you very much for listening very quietly. And I teach in the university, so I know, I look around the people with the faces. Thank you very much listening to me without frowning and being bored. I think I've done my job. Thank you very much, Staff College, and thank you very much for the listeners. ल मेरो काम सक्यो कहाँ बस्ने म त्यहाँ बस्दिन लाज हुन्छ सबै गइसके तल म एक्लै किन बस्ने त्यहाँ ए ओपन चाहिन्छ ल त यही
Thank you, sir, for that insightful, thought-provoking keynote. Your reflections have provided us with a strong foundation to frame our discussions moving forward. I now request our respected Executive Director, sir, Mr. Ram Sharan Purasaini, sir, to hand over the token of love to our keynote speaker. Thank you, sir. We will now break for lunch. Kindly reassemble by 2:30 p.m. for the panel discussion. Our panel theme is Youth, Protest, and Public Voice. Thank you. Thank you very much. खाजा हाम्रो डाइनिङ हलमा छ ठ्याक्क यहाँ पछाडि I kindly request everyone to be seated. We'll be starting the panel discussion soon. Volunteers, please kindly invite everyone from outside. We'll be starting the panel discussion soon. I know. Volunteers, kindly invite everyone inside. We'll be starting the panel discussion soon. Welcome back to the 6th South Asian Conference on Public Policy and Governance, organized under the theme Resilience and Renewal, Re-envisioning Governance Through Youth Engagement, Digital Transformation, and Cultural Narratives in South Asia. I am Sheetal Muktan. We now move to the panel discussion on youth protest and public voice. The session explores how youth engagement and protest movements are shaping governance, accountability, and democratic expression across South Asia. The session will be moderated by Mr. Trilochan Pokharel, Senior Director of Studies at Nepal Administrative Staff College. We have with us distinguished panelists, Honorable Rahabar Ansari, Member of Federal Parliament, Dr. Rezwan ul Alam, Associate Professor and Chair, Department of Media, Communication and Journalism, North-South University, Bangladesh, and Ms. Pratishta Subedi, Section Officer of Nepal Government. I now invite Mr. Trilochan Pokharel to kindly introduce our panelists and lead the session. Please give them a big round of applause.
Thank you, Sheetalji. Good afternoon, everyone. Your post-lunch session is a little challenging, so sometimes, and then again a session post-lunch, and then before that, a session by Hari Sharma. And if you combine these two sessions, then I'm already feeling a challenge. So how can we end this session successfully? But then we will try our best. Once again, good afternoon, everyone, and also welcome to this panel on youth protest and public voice. This is a big title, youth protest and public voice, and which is also a very burning issue that we are navigating through. So what I feel that is this panel actually sits at the core of the conference theme. If you go back to the conference theme, it's the resilience and renewal. And so what we are trying to do is through re-envisioning governance. Again, that's a big issue, the re-envisioning governance. So when you say re-envisioning, we have a vision and we want to reframe it again. So it's again a double, complexity is there. And we also have said something like how we are going to do it through youth engagement and digital transformation. And another big term is there called cultural narratives, which is again a big issue there. And then we are not looking only in Nepal, but we are trying to look at across the South Asia. So I have to thank the keynote speaker who in the earlier session, who gave us an overview of how the political discourse is moving around the world. And he left with so many questions that we have to ask individually and collectively. And many of the questions are inward looking. We have to look at our own selves. And for me, so what I felt, this is one of the most challenging tasks to do ahead, but we cannot avoid it. So we have to face with those complexities, with those questions. So across South Asia, so what you see is that youth, they are not simply the participants in democracy. They are often as the earliest indicators of the institutional stress and the drivers of renewals. So they are shaping the political discourse. Now, not they are only shaping the political discourse, they are taking the stage, they are taking the power. So it is a complete shift from a conventional political practice to a new system. So we were talking in a 0 hour there, so my network has gone. So what is there, if you see in the new elected parliament, majority of the parliamentarians, they are below 40 years of age. Now where the network has started, so with the new, these two people, the network is there. So it is a complete shift from our understanding how the power is actually changing. So this leads us to a very interesting question. So how does youth protest become public voice? So protest is one thing, but transforming that protest into a voice is another trajectory. And when does that voice shape the institutions? To strengthen democracy, improve delivery, and finally, the big question is building the legitimacy. So this is a big question that we have to do. So our frame of discussion today will be, we will start from protest, then we'll go to the voice, then we'll go to the policy, then policy into delivery, and delivery into, at the end, as a result, legitimacy. But in reality, this pathway is not straightforward. So what you have seen, protest is visible, but voice is fragmented. And voice are heard, yes, but not translated into policies. And they are lost somewhere. And policy is announced. Yes, it is sometimes very easy to announce policy, but they are not implemented. And delivery always does not build the legitimacy. So when you say legitimacy, it's a big thing that we have to discuss. So what you need to discuss is that, where does this path actually break and why? So what can be the lesson for the discourse? So with this introductive background, so let me once again introduce my panel, but though Sitalji has already done it. So we have Mohammad Rahbar Ansari. So he's member of House of Representatives, and we can say he's one of the youngest parliamentarian, if I'm not wrong, but one of the youngest. And also we have Pratishtha Swedi. She is also one of the youngest officers. She has just started her career, and she said that she's running in 4th month of her public service. So young, and then a lot of aspiration as well. So we have Rezwan Ul Alam, so who is an associate professor and chair, Department of Media and Communication Journalism, and he is serving North-South University. And just to go to his background, he has served with the government of Bangladesh for a long, long time. So he also brings the perspective from there. And he's also doing research study on how this South Asian youth movement is taking shape. So maybe it will be a very interesting panel for us. We will try to use both languages based on our comfort. So what I request my panelists is that if you are targeting to your Nepali audience, you don't have to feel any discomfort to use Nepali language. But if you are making very general comments, so you can use English. So it's on your comfort. We'll have 3 rounds of questions. So what I'll try to do is, if the conversation is going a little bit longer, I'll try to intervene in between so that we will move as planned. And we will have around 30 to 45 minutes of open floor or open discussion where we can interact there. Okay, if this plan works, so let me begin. This first question is just to open us, or the like, set the what do you say, context. Just being reflective. I'll start from Pratishtha. Okay, I'll start from you. Just being reflective on yourself. Can you say? Can you recall any moment? Where the youth voice influenced the public or government decision? Can you remember anything where the youth voice has actually influenced the public decision? Please. It should not be your own experience. You can catch up any of the event.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for the question, sir. Firstly, this is the very first time that I'm speaking in this large mass. So, excuse me if I fumble sometimes. So, coming back to your question, sir. I can actually remember an incident that has happened recently, the Gen Z movement. The public voice has definitely made a change, and the voices that were heard in the road has now gone to the government, and it has made the significant changes in the policies. So the voices that are heard in the public that will make the huge impact in the actually in the policy. So that will reflect back in the policy. So for now, I can remember only Gen Z movement for now. Sir.
Any specific policy name that you want to refer? This is what has been changed because of that moment.
Okay, the first and foremost thing is the government, I can say, because the government had changed the institution that was laid by. Thank you so much. The institution that was laid by, we can say the institution that was laid by our older generation has now changed towards the Gen Z generation's government. So that is one of the very significant moment I can remember, sir.
Yes, thank you. Now, may I go to Dr. Alam? It's the same question for you too. Do you remember anything, that the youth protest has changed policy? You can bring example from your country.
My country?
Yeah, from anywhere, yeah. Any specific example will be good. It's working, we have to press a little bit more.
Yes. All right. Thank you. I can give two examples, one from the Bangladesh and also from Nepal. Okay, all right. First example is that the Gen Z revolution in Bangladesh that toppled Sheikh Hasina's government after 17 years of autocracy, and you have seen that one. In fact, my study that I'm currently conducting right now looks into these three particular country case examples from the Nepal, Sri Lanka, and also Bangladesh. So to answer your question is that, okay, that's the kind of the thing is that, okay, the protest moves in and then intensified, and to some extent actually the institutional triggering is there, political system is to some extent abased, and then okay, changes happen, and then okay, new set of people come in, and dinosaur like me will also be leaving very soon, okay? But the point here is not the case of the changes of the government or the regime or the new system of governance. I think the sustainability of the change actually is the more concern here. Mm-hmm. The second example is that I can tell you is that on 6th April 1990, I'm taking you back to like almost like 36 years, okay? That was the past time I entered in Nepal. I landed in Nepal because I was a student among master students of the Dhaka University. We were 40 students together, master students. We were here en route to Nepal to Ceylon, from Nepal to India and in other parts of the India. We were on a SAR tour. We landed on 6th April. The Bangladesh Biman dropped us there, and then the previous night, the protest against the king's kind of the power and everything started. Can you remember this thing? Those were the seniors people are here. And what really happened, we had to drag our own suitcases from the plane's luggage carrier and everything. And we took shelter nearby because we had to drag the suitcases to a nearby hotel. And we took shelter. And in the afternoon, when we tried to actually go upstairs and then from the rooftop, we wanted to see something, the military actually was brushing the machine gun and everything. Don't come out, okay? So when on 9th April, the king abrogated his power and said that, okay, I'm no longer going to be the kind of a monarch right now, so it is going to be a constitutional kind of a thing. And the students of the Kathmandu University, they actually were celebrating, and we, from the University of Dhaka, as a student, we also joined there. Okay. So that experience I can definitely share with you. So, but my my moot point here remains from the experience of my 1990s, this your Nepal thing. 1990, we also toppled the military government of General Ershad. In Bangladesh, also this year, the Gen Z generation toppled Sheikh Hasina, and we also see the emergence of the new Gen Z government actually in also in Nepal. Okay. My only question is that sustainability of the changes.
Thank you. We will come back to that later. And then today is 9th April actually, you know, that you're remembering same thing. You know? Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, then may I go to now to next panelist? So it's the same question to you as well. So do you remember any specific example that the youth movement has changed in policy?
Well, I cannot ignore the recent Gen Z movement that has changed a lot in Nepal. I remember a small event that is quite connected to me. During the first pandemic, the COVID pandemic, there was a notice from the finance ministry, actually the revenues department, saying that all the businessmen, all the corporate houses should pay taxes within a week. So me, along with few of my friends, we went to the road and stripped off our clothes and protested and said that we do not have any money to pay taxes. The businesses are closed, shut, people are not selling any goods, not giving any services, and the government wants us to pay taxes. So there was quite a symbolic protest that we did, and that was the day when the government decided, the finance ministry decided to not force people to pay taxes within a week. This is something very connected to me, and I can give you an example. Of course, I'm evident about the Gen Z protest. I'm evident about the Bangladesh protests. Yeah. I know that, but something that was very local, quite connected to me. That is what
Thank
I
you.
want to share.
We'll come back to that again. We have a lot of things to discuss today. So thank you very much for those examples. Now this is how we can ground our discussion into the youth protest and then public voice or the public policy there. So let us step back a little bit back now and try to understand and interpret about this youth protest that has happened in the South Asian context, a little bit there. So I want to start from the Honorable Ansari, from you, that how do you read that youth protest today? You were a part of that moment, and then now you are in like a ruling party, or you are in parliament. So how does this type of protest they actually signal for the institution and the political system? So what is your reading on that?
How I would read this is that with the evolution of democracy, I always say that democracy is all about conversation. Today the youths are more aware, the youths are more informed, they are more connected, and they are more expressive. We've seen protests since generations, but the very founding principles of democracy, I would say the founding stones of democracies, is the media. In a democratic system, it was not possible to run a democracy without conversing. And once a democracy is large, it becomes very difficult for the power center or the government to talk to its people. And there comes the role of media. But traditionally it used to be media, today it is social media. And today there's a big shift in information technology. So today, as I said, the youths are more aware, they are more connected. Who had imagined that a gaming chat platform, Discord, would decide who's going to lead the government? No one, even I had never imagined in my life that could create that big an event that would turn around the politics and the political culture in Nepal. So the protests have taken a big shift. It is a social shift, it is a cultural shift. And in the past, I would say these protests were more organized, more of a leader-oriented protests, and more of a funded protests. But today, with technology going this far, You don't need a leader, you don't need an organization, you don't need funding. It's all about connectivity, it's all about sharing your experiences and then streamlining and aligning all your frustrations on the road against the government. That's how I see it today.
It's interesting, you know. So do you find anything surprising to you when you enter into politics like this? You know, do you find anything surprising to you?
One thing I would share is that we always know that some protests, the protests happen, the government or the power center, either they absorb it or they suppress it. With this technological shift, I would again repeat the word algorithm and information. It is not very easy for financially sound and I would say even a government which is from the aspect of defense very sound to stop these kind of protests. It has the efficiency and the power of these kind of protests have grown exponentially today. This is quite surprising. I think this might become very normal 10 years down the line, but for today, when we see a deep contrast between protests that are happening today around the world. I mean, if you talk about Arab Spring, right, that was more connected to YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. But today the protests have shifted towards Discord and more of algorithm there. So this is surprising today.
Well, surprising, what I mean is that I'll go to the next panelist now. So by surprising, what I mean is that you being in politics, is there anything surprising to you?
Me?
It's not about general tendency, but you being in politics.
Well, what is surprising is that the time gap.
Okay.
We expect changes to happen over a period of time. But things happening overnight is actually surprising to me. Since I am into politics for the last 16 years, I'm into politics. But this quick, overnight, things change. This has been quite surprising to me and even like my colleagues, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I'll come back to you later on again. So I'll go to Pratishtha now. The question to you is, you have entered into the public sector now, then as you know that, so you have just started it. But what do you think, how will the public sector, the public administration, respond the youth voice? How your voice will be heard? What is your expectation or what is your thinking on that?
Okay. How my voice will be heard?
Yes.
Okay, so we cannot deny the fact that the voice of the youth needs to be heard. So representing the generation that is Gen Z, which is very famous today. So representing the generation Z and also the public service now, the government. So I think my voice, the voice needs to be heard because the youth, the definition of youth is just limited only within the age group. So the national policy 2082 has limited the definition of youth only under the age groups. But the definition of youth needs to go beyond that because youth, they are the energy, they are the perspectives, and so the voice of the youth definitely needs to be heard. And I think coming from the generation Z, we represent a larger mass of the population. So today we are seeing the Mr. Robert Sir's representation here. So out of 165 directly elected MPs, so 61 of them are under the age of 40. So they carry a lot of potential, youth carry a lot of potential, they have very different ideas, they are digitally very adaptable, and so I think the voice of the youth should not be silent, and if the voice of the youth will be silent, then the result is here itself. So the change in the government is the result. So the voice of the youth needs to be addressed.
You mean that now you will have a good wavelength, yes, yeah, with the politicians. So you belong to, okay. But my follow-up question is that So what could be the positive and also the challenges, when you are like trying to express yourself in public administration or trying to raise your voice? So what could be the positive and also what could be the challenges for you?
I think the challenge would be to reduce the intergenerational gap. The challenge would be to coordinate between so in the bureaucracy, the challenge would be to reduce this intergenerational gap, to create the coordination and coexistence between the older generation and today's generation. So the next challenge would also be to adapt digitally, because we are living in a digital environment. We expect everything to be very much faster. We are expecting the e-governance. In this situation, it would be very challenging for us to adapt the digital technologies, the digital platform, apart from that, it would also be challenging for us to give our opinions so that our opinions would be heard, our voices would be heard, and our opinions will also be counted in the policy making process. So this would be challenging,
Thank you. I
guess.
like your term faster, So how fast we can do, okay? We'll talk to that. We'll come to that later on, okay? So now let me go to the Professor Alam. So the question for you is, so from a regional perspective, since you're doing a comparative study of the region, so from a regional perspective, or you may do something more on Bangladesh, and you may bring more from Bangladesh. So how do you interpret the recent wave of youth protest? I mean, do you see them as an episodic reaction or a part of deeper structural shift?
Okay. Two part of the question actually is
okay.
there, and then I will address that one by one. First of all, let me just reiterate on my particular position as an academic, is that the notion or the assumption or the kind of the theoretical kind of the assumption that we're making is that because of the social media, the changes happened. Empirical studies findings doesn't actually support that one. That social media actually directly contributed the one, because of the fact that evidences from the Arab revolutions and other revolutions, even the Bangladesh revolution, actually points to the other directions. Anger of the public, anger of the youth group of people were actually was building up over the years, but the social media provided the channel which actually to some extent crystallized the protest in a sense, and then it actually got to a process and then actually evolved over the process. But social media did not actually create this, actually the changes over. That has to be real. Empirical evidence suggests that there is no direct correlations. That's number one. Number two is the point that actually you made. I was actually interested about, this is about the study that I'm doing because that's a university-funded study, but when I was talking with my Nepalese people here and also with the Sri Lankan counterparts there, also in my colleagues here, after the changes are there, changes happened in 3 countries. What next? There's a tendency, there is a kind of a phenomenon developing is that those young group of people who played an instrumental role, pivotal role in the revolution, after the changes over, different changes over took place in the 2 other countries, but the Gen Z generations came here as a kind of the winner and the government former. So what actually is happening? After the revolution has happened, a kind of lethargy actually has come up. A lethargy actually has come up and developed to some extent because of the fact that, and this is also my questions to the Honorable MP here, would you actually allow 3 months, 6 months down the line, some students protest against your policy? Would you allow that to happen? That's another question that actually I would like to ask you. Because we are living in a mutual mistrust. This is the era of mutual mistrust. People doesn't believe the government doesn't actually believe the public. Okay, you were actually the other side of the one. Now the table actually has shifted. We don't actually trust the intermediary organizations such as academia, media, NGO, civil society, whatnot. They also do not believe the government on the. It's an age of the mutual mistrust. So why do we stand? I actually will not directly answer to some extent the latter part of the question, but actually I'll ask a question to the audience, which are mostly the students here, that your response actually will tell our beloved MPs here. Is the question is simple. How many of you are confident of getting a full-time job after you graduate? That's the question I just want to ask here.
Well, yeah, this is again a non-conventional panel, it's being there. We are expecting audience would ask questions to the panelists, but panelists are asking anyway, no problem there. Okay, so my follow-up question to you again, as an academics here then. Well, there were like consecutive protests in the South Asia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Nepal. But what we saw is the results were completely different. The results, the outcomes were completely different. So how would you theorize, or how would you explain that differences in the result, despite having the same nature or the pattern of protest?
Well, let me start with the giving example from Bangladesh. And if we compare it with the Nepal actually had a kind of I think, sound leadership and organizational capacity, right? So when the general public flocked to the street and joined the students' protest to topple the government, but that was something like, later when we realized that there was some mastermind that was there, but then when this thing actually was building up on the 5th of August, when the government actually toppled and the student revolution succeeded, there was no collective leadership. We didn't know actually who was behind the whole thing. Then that's the conspiracy theory actually set in. So from my perspective, I would actually simply say that our young group of leaders, activists, who were actually instrumental in actually to some extent driving this particular force in Bangladesh, they actually made a mistake. They just became the part of the interim government. That should not be happening at that point of time. Once they actually got into the system, they got spoiled. Because the old generations know how to trap the young group of people, right? We are very much good at it, right?
This is a reference for these two people who are being part of system.
Yeah, but they're actually in the system right now, because actually, your case actually was that actually you protested and everything and you went back after the change is over, but then again you prepared yourself for the people's verdict, right? So actually you campaigned and everything. But in our case, the young group of people actually became a part of the student week like Jamaat-e-Islami, which is a religious fundamentalist group. Nobody liked it. And they also formed their own political party, National Party, Students' Party. But then again, that party actually had only city-centric kind of the support. There is no support because they could not actually mobilize the support in their rural areas. Now, what really happens is that when the battle between the young and the old actually is because of the two systems, the old system and the new system. So in the new system, young are actually fresh, more knowledgeable, more actually information-oriented, and more of a connected group of people. Then at the end of this, what actually happening, the results and the kind of the study that I'm just conducting right now, giving me kind of a direction is that after the revolutions are actually happening, the youth group are actually now becoming fragmented. Their opinion are actually becoming fragmented because those group of people who supported you earlier and they probably would like to be also part of your system, but they are not. So suddenly they find it that my co-fellow actually has become my enemy. Okay? So are you ready to take your friends to actually and deal with them actually in a democratic manner? So there are a lot of challenges actually because you see the point here is that young group of people, I've been a practitioner. I have actually been in the programmatic with youth development cases for almost 25 years. If you allow me, I can just ask about, let me tell you one story. I used to work with the UNICEF as a communication officer, and in one of the planning meetings where the government and the UNICEF and all the donors actually were sitting there was a planning meeting going on of the UNICEF and everything, and we were told to bring some students there because of the fact that, okay, children's participation is also important for the policy making and everything. So the secretary was planning secretary was chairing the session, and every donor country, World Bank, UNICEF and whatnot, 40 development partners were there. One, I still remember the name of the particular boy, Fazl Rabbi. He asked a simple question. He stood up and said that, why do you give promises which you cannot keep? Secretary was taking time, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds. That 50 seconds looked like a 1 hour. And all the donors actually were seeing each other. What's happened to the secretary? Why he cannot actually answer the question? Later on, he grumbled and came up with a kind of a topsy-turvy answer. He said that, well, we have a wish, but we cannot actually provide the resources and the funds, so that's why this problem. Okay, so the same question goes to you, goes to us, went to us, we didn't do much. Why do you give promises which you cannot keep? That's the answer to your question.
Wow. Wow. It's not the answer for me, actually. You know, it's a collective understanding, I guess. So thank you very much for that references. So what it reminds me is that, like, you know, it's about the context. It's about the historicity. You know, the outcomes is not same. It's not linear, actually. You know, it's not linear. Then we cannot apply the same model that has been practiced in one country, then we cannot apply to another country. So it very much depends on the context. Maybe in the opening session, that is what we were discussing this morning. So let me build a little bit further from here now, okay? So let us imagine that, you know, we were talking a lot about youth, Gen Z, these all things there, but can we reframe this idea from a demographic cohort, for an example, you know? Gen Z is a demographic cohort, you know, or certain age group like that. So in my understanding, if you frame this in different way, for an example, youth is not about only the demographic cohort, but it's a way of thinking. So I can be youth, I can have a youth mind. So if, you know, otherwise it will be difficult to, you know, again, navigate these all complexities. So, but how we are, like, you know, communicating or establishing a narrative that this is about the demographic cohort. I think we have to come out of this one. And so my question is, so the question comes is, are the institutions that we are working with or that we are making, you know, they observe or they appreciate, you know, this way of thinking. That means the youthful way of thinking. Youthful way of thinking. It's regardless of age. There the age is not that much important. It's about how do you think or how do you behave there. Again, I'll go to the Professor Ansari, Professor Alam, and then I'll come to the Honorable Ansari. So to you again. So do you say the youth as a way of thinking, they have been reflected in the recent movements and the political institution that your country, this in South Asia. So do you see, have they appreciated this or have they been institutionalized it? What do you think? You know, what do you see in your...
Well, the interim government did actually try, and they actually instituted 12 commissions, and together with that commission, they thought that, okay, the aspirations of the young group of people and all the Gen Z generation who actually created a historic moment, that has to be honored, to some extent followed through, and the implementation has to be there. So he actually worked on the Professor Yunus, he worked on this particular 12 commissions, and that particular 12 commission actually has a various components of the youth development issues, funding issues, and the capacity building issues, and at the same time also the other part, because one of the challenges of these particular generations is also from the part of the, like say for example, the radicalization is there, and because of the fact that you haven't touched it, but the social media is also part of that one. And another one is actually that whether that will actually militancy part actually tilt toward that one. Will
my idea is like, you know, not youth as beneficiaries, but youthful thinking.
Okay, well, youthful thinking, okay, I'm 60, okay, I'm an old person, but I can say that myself, okay, I'm also youthful actually in my mind, okay, I'm evergreen. But then again, you see the leadership in the institutions, they are driven by the politics and they are driven by the political mind. And since they are hit by this particular Gen Z generations thoroughly and very, very severely, Bangladesh experience tells me that on the public face of it, they actually apprise the young group of people, but at the same time, at the back of their mind, they're actually hateful of this particular generations. And they're actually, this is the reality you have to understand, because of the fact that they have been debased. They have been dethroned from their own kind of the aspirations. So those who wanted to rule the country till 2041 suddenly said that they see that, okay, something actually, new power actually has come in. So instead, although the young group of people did not form the government in Bangladesh, through the elections, and the last elections, 6 people from the movement actually, they got elected, okay? So if they had actually waited for some more time and organized themselves, they could have actually done much better. But your point is taken, is that, okay, you were talking about that nothing actually has changed. No. Okay. Assuming that everything actually remains same, the answer would be different. But then again, There is a theory, the kind of probably a Greek philosopher called Herodotus. He said that but the point here is that you cannot step into the same river twice. You cannot step into the same river twice. If that is the case here, the Gen Z generation, and according to my observation, my Bangladesh history that I look into, there's always a kind of a shelf life of the movement as well.
Yeah.
Technology is probably speeding up, but then again, in the South Asian context, the youth force will always be inside of the people and they will always revolt when there is a kind of injustice going on for a long period of time. Thank you.
Yeah, when I talk about Bangladesh, I remember is your, not the 2024 moment, but 2018 moments, road safety moment, Yeah, that is one of the very much inspiring moment, how it has changed the road policy, that's very interesting. Oh, really? Well, so let me come to now Honorable Ansari. So we were talking about the youthful thinking. So do you bring any different way of thinking into the politics? What different way of thinking you are bringing in politics? Why I'm asking this question is, every time there's a meeting of parliament, I used to watch live in television or my computer screen, then just learning that how the different people they're speaking. And it looks very, very encouraging. The way they are talking, the issues they are bringing on the floor, and the very diversity of that room, which was never seen in previously. And my imagination, I'm struggling hard to imagine myself is that my minister could be a young people, young one. Because I have been taught like that, when you say a minister means who is 30 years of politics and very little bit old and carries something back somewhere in the back, and his hair is already something white or something like this, And from there, I have to frame myself is that a minister could be 26 years old. From 70 years or 60 years, I have to, again, bring me down to the 26 years old. So it's a whole way of changing the idea, the understanding. So my question to you again is that, what differences you are bringing into the politics, so that will create a hope in public?
This is a very nice question, but quite deep. The way youths think, or the youth's way of thinking has always been appreciated. Everywhere around the world, all the governments have appreciated it, but whether the way they think, has that been incorporated within the health of democracy, that is a big question. I mean, we have really old politicians, we have the political elites who've always talked about youths and who've always listened to youths, but have they incorporated things within the policies to bring youths together in the improvement of democracy? This has been a big question. Now, to me, if you ask me what difference I could bring to a parliament, or how different can someone like me be within the parliament, I say that being a young politician, I would always try to define politics to be a very simple thing. The first thing that we could do is make this heavy word simpler. For generations, politics and politicians have been made a very complex word, a complex profession. And I remember, it wasn't, I think, not even 6 or 8 months back, I was in the Provincial Assembly of Madhesh, where on the rostrum, I went and I said that, why don't we declare Madhesh to be a corruption tourism area?
Interesting.
And why don't we legalize corruption? I said, if corruption is this big a problem prevailing in the province, let us legalize it. Let us legalize it. There has been incidences wherein prostitution was legalized. When you're not able to control a situation, legalize it. And why doesn't the government get taxes out of bribes? I said, the government is losing revenue on bribes. We have politicians, we have bureaucrats who are taking millions of rupees as bribes and not paying any revenue to the government. No tax. I said, let us legalize it. And let us make Madhesh a center for corruption tourism. Let people from all around the world come to Madhesh and study tourism. Study corruption.
Okay.
So,
that will be a great
in the name of maintaining the decorum of the parliament, I would not compromise with the decorum of the emotions that people carry. I would not compromise on the aspiration of the people who I am accountable to, who I am answerable to. So this is the difference that we can get into, bring it to the parliament. Not very long ago, I went to the parliament. On my first day, I went in a school uniform. I went wearing a school uniform and people started saying it's a stunt. And I told them, I was asking media, why did you do the stunt? I said, why do people perform stunt? For identity, for an identity. I already have an identity. I'm an elected parliamentarian. What else do I need? But what I was trying to raise, it was an issue. I was trying to give a message to the Nepali citizens, 70 lakh students in the country. And no parliamentarian, of course we are allowed to wear cultural dress, we are allowed to wear formals, but why don't I wear something that 70 lakh students wear all day? And show the importance of education to the nation through my first step in the parliament. So there is a difference. A stunt is short term, a message is a long-term thing. So this is the difference that I think people would like to see. This is how differently we can work. And we don't care about the decorum of the parliament. We do care, but when it goes beyond, we will not just talk about the decorum and let undermine people's aspiration within the parliamentary building.
So,
that's the difference.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So, if the problem of school education is not solved, for an example, so will you repeat going to parliament with the school uniform again?
Again, I would like to clarify on this. This is not I did not wear a school uniform to say that I'm solving the problem. I wanted to highlight a big issue. Since it's also the time of admission now, a lot of dropouts, a lot of parents not sending their children to school. And if you remember, I went there with my dad, and I said that more than 3 decades ago, my dad took me to the school, in school uniform, and today he's brought me to the parliament. And if someone, a very ordinary Nepali, thinks that or aspires his child to become someone big, do good in his life, be a responsible citizen, the only way to reach there is to send your child to the school. That was the message I wanted to give. And of course, there were people who criticized this, but I always say that if there is one parent sending his child because he saw me in a school dress, if there is one dropout child rejoining school, I think my message is quite successful.
That's powerful. That's powerful, and interesting as well. So what I learned from you is that so you are trying to simplify the political, very rhetoric. So you're trying to simplify, and this is a good lesson as well. So we are struggling that how can we simplify the rhetoric. So we were surviving in rhetoric, and we are taught rhetoric. And then we are now struggling how to simplify it. I think that is one example how you can simplify it. Thank you very much. So let me go to Pratishthan now. Well, as a youth, what we were talking earlier is, so youths are adaptive, they are flexible, they can learn the situation very fast, and then you use the, your term as a faster. Yeah. So. How do you see, is there any space where you can practice your youthful thinking in administration?
Okay, so what I believe is my entry in the public service will not bring a complete radical change in the whole system. But what I also believe is the journey of 1,000 miles start with a single step. So my entry in the public service would really inspire other youths to come into the service, because today's youth are so demotivated that people don't want to stay in the country itself. So I would use my youthful thinking, I think, in the giving good suggestions during the policy making process, so which can actually retain the youth in the country. And after that, I will also be sure, I'll also make sure that I will stay within my jurisdictions. I will complete the job descriptions. I'll complete the work that I've assigned in my job descriptions, and also be accountable towards the people. I will also be accountable to the whatever decisions, to whatever actions, and the whatever results that will be brought by my work. So my youthful thinking I will use my youthful thinking, as I said earlier, in the decision making, same as making the service delivery very efficient, effective, and economic. Likewise, people now are expecting the very fast service delivery, because now the revolution of there is the revolution of rising frustration among people. So there is also the transition from the revolution of rising frustration towards the revolution of rising hope. So in this condition, as a youth representing the Gen Z generation and also representing the government, I will make sure that from my side, whatever will be possible, I'll try to make the public service very efficient, fast, and of course, productive. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Pratisha. That's a big commitment that you have made in front of this audience, you know. So we wish you all the best that you can live up to your, this commitment. So now let us move to the last round of our conversation. Then we'll open the floor. So this last round will be very precise. So we are not going to do a long elaboration on that. So this is the idea on performance, capacity, and legitimacy. So how can we bring those all things there? So how can we ensure performance, and then what capacity actually we need, and how the legitimacy will be reinstated actually. So I'll again start from Pratisha. Well, just to keep on, or just to make the things happen, as you have said earlier, so what strengths, this generation actually has, so that we have to actually depend on you, we have to trust you. So what, capacity or what strength you have?
Okay, so since I already mentioned that this generation expects a very fast service delivery, so this is only possible when we use the digital platforms and simplify the processes. So I think the strength that I have is the adaptation of technology. And I think I have longer way to go, I have longer period to go. So I will also learn from the seniors during this career, during the 35 years of my career. So I guess, and the very next strength that I have is, I think, the adaptability towards the change, because we are so reluctant, we are so hesitant towards change, we believe in the status quo. So my intervention would be to adapt with the change, to adapt with the change of time. And also the very next strength that I have is I think I believe in teaching and learning culture. So I will make sure that I will be exchanging my ideas, my knowledge, and the thing that I learned during the 4 months training, the 4 months basic administration training here in NASC. I'll make sure to use the skills that I gained here in the public service delivery.
One question before I move to other to you, and just to follow up to you. What do you expect from your political leaders? What type of political leader you actually want? For an example, we have Honorable MP here. So what you want from him, so that it will be somewhat like very much comfortable or performing environment for you.
Okay. So I think we both represent the government. So the coordination, the coexistence, and the cooperation among us is must during the public service delivery. So there is a huge gap between the policy and practice right now. So I expect to narrow down this gap with the coordination among us. And also the next thing that I would expect from the government side is the protection for us, because since you have already come out as you have come with the 100 points with the 100 points priority list that will be implemented during your 100 days. So during this time, the employees, the government employees are so much in rush, and they are so much under the pressure. So in this period of time, so we also need your protection to make a bold move, to make a transparent and to make a fair decision. So we also expect that parentship from you, sir.
I think for you, this 100 points should be very much encouraging. You want fast, you want speed, and then those 100 points are very much speedful. I think you'll love it. I think. Well, thank you, Pratishtha. If there's any question from the floor, we'll come back to you before we close. So I'll go to the Honorable Ansari. So 2 questions I have for you. One is just on top of what Pratishtha said. And yesterday I was having discussion with a group of young officers, and then I asked them, tomorrow we are having a panel there. So what questions would I ask to the MP on your behalf? I have asked them, and then they said, well, we are ready to work, given that a good direction, protection if something happens there unintentionally, if something happens intentionally, so we have to face the consequences. But we want protection, and we want a clear direction. Just ask him that. So how they are going to ensure this one. So one question is that how you are going to satisfy those young officers, these people, that community who will actually do it. And my second question to you is, yes, protest has been done, and you are in position to raise the voices, but it is still yet to see that. So how those voices will be reflected into policies, and how that will go into the delivery, and how that will finally build the legitimacy that, the crisis that we are facing earlier. Because everything was intact, parliament was there, government was there, bureaucracy was there, law was there, resource was there, and everyone was doing work, but the people were not satisfied. That means we were facing the legitimacy crisis. So this government has to reveal it. So what do you think that, how you are, or your government, or your party is going to take initiatives to build this legitimacy?
All right, let me start with the second question first. How I would go on this is that, there is a theory called theory of relative deprivation, right? Before us, the older generations, they used to complain about being poor. Today, the young generations are not complaining about being poor. They are complaining because they feel cheated, right? So the young generation is very sensitive to this word called cheating. I hope you all understand, right? Everywhere, in relationship, in government, in politics. So once there is some kind of cheating, you immediately get hold of it. So, to me, as a part of as a member of the parliament, or if I am part of the government, I would say the easiest thing we can do is we ensure that the citizens are not cheated now. Poverty is a big issue. Economic growth is an issue. It takes time. But the moment we promise ourselves on moral grounds, socially, morally, and culturally, we talk about changing the political culture now. The moment we promise ourselves that we will not cheat the citizens, I think things will get on track. This is one thing. The other thing now I would like to go to your first question and somehow connect it to the second one. The answer we got from her as a young officer, she said that she expects a lot of cooperation and coordination from us as politicians. Well, I have my reservations on this. To me, if you ask me how they could function well and how we could function well, I would say we have seen a lot of cooperation and coordination between politicians and bureaucrats, and that is why we are here today. I think we should be having a very objective relationship. They have their job description, I have my job description. We do what we are supposed to do. There has been a lot of cooperation and coordination in the past between the Home Ministers and the Inspector Generals of Police. There has been a lot of cooperation between the Finance Minister and the Finance Secretary. There's been a lot of coordination between them. And what we got was flourishing corruption. What we got was political elites. What we got was bureaucratic elites. So to fight that, to bring changes, I think And one more thing I would want the bureaucrats to take out of their mind, that we are not the ones to safeguard them. We are not the ones individually. As a person, I am not with the responsibility of safeguarding a particular bureaucrat. The moment a bureaucrat thinks that a politician will safeguard me, or a politician is an insurance to my actions, there comes a systemic failure. So it is believed, if you are a bureaucrat, please don't take it very personally, it is believed that a bureaucrat runs his red pen in two conditions. Historically, till now in Nepal, I would say. The first condition is he or she should benefit financially. The second condition is if he signs a document and if he gets stuck somewhere, a politician should safeguard him. So to get out of these two conditions, I think we should independently work towards our duties. And I think with the formation of the new government, it is quite evident. You know, even as a parliamentarian, we are not in much interaction with the ministers or the prime minister. We're letting them do their job. We are doing our job, and we want bureaucrats to do their job. And that alone can make this democracy healthy. That alone can make our institutions function better. So there should be no interdependence between these two totally different professions. I think there has to be a symbiotic relationship between the public bureaucrats and the politicians, but not a relationship of interest or no interest-sharing relationship between us.
You mean about collusion, you know, there shouldn't be any collusion, right? Yeah. Pratishtha, I think you got your answer, right? How the politicians are thinking. now you have to think like politician, you know. So what will be your response on this one? Are you happy?
Of course not. I slightly disagree with you, sir, with due respect, because when I say there needs to be a cooperation, so I don't mean that you need to protect us in our bad deeds. So what I mean is we really want to work, but then today people are so frustrated that people can attack any government officials anytime if the things don't go along their way. So what I mean is, if you really want us to go out of the box and make the bold decision, the transparent decision, and the fair decisions, so the public might not take us positively, you know. So I mean by the protection, I mean in our good deeds, you need to protect us. So my point was that.
Please.
This is a very nice, it's not a debate. I totally agree with her position. One cooperation that we as young parliamentarians or new parliamentarians or the new political thinkers could provide is that we are the ones who make policies. And the bureaucrats are the ones who drive it. As a policymaker, we think, we imagine, we envision. And without bureaucrats, without you all, like, we cannot reach that vision, right? So what we can do is, we would not be an obstruction when our own policies are being implemented by the bureaucrats. This has been the biggest problem here. The bureaucracy tries to implement the policies made by policymakers, and the policymakers themselves becomes the biggest obstruction in the implementation process. That shall definitely not be there, and that is the biggest cooperation that we could give. And the coordination that she expects could be that it's a feedback loop where we work. Democracy is also all about feedback. Even the protests should not be taken in a negative way. It's a feedback. It is data that the institutions should take it as. So there, as a feedback, feedback from public to bureaucrats and from bureaucrats to policymakers, this coordination shall definitely add to the health of democracy in Nepal, I think.
Yes,
Thank
thank you. Interesting. So we will not go further from here. But what I understand from this is, yes, we are together, but yet we are different. Yes, I think that's the message. We are together. So here brings the idea of authentic leadership. So politicians should be the politician, and bureaucrats should be the bureaucrats. Like if bureaucrats try to be politician and then politician try to be bureaucrat, and there's the problem of the boundary. And there's something like, going into others' domain, and then creates the problem. Maybe that is what he's saying about there was a cooperation, but we saw the result. So we don't want that type of cooperation. And I perfectly agree on that one. Yeah, that type of cooperation will lead somewhere. So now I'll go to Professor Lam for you just to wrap up this round, and then before we go to the audience. Based on your research and observation, what if of like institutional mechanism are very much effective in integrating the youth voice into governance, not in episodic way, in a sustained way? What I'm understanding is that this Gen Z, Generation Z, is not the ultimate generation. There's another, already next generation has come into the street. So they have started questioning, they're learning these all things. So it will keep on going further. But what is the tension is that how do you integrate the youth into the governance system or into this? Then what do you think, how it can be done?
Hello.
Okay, thank you. I can actually probably give you one model just after actually discussing and listening to all of the people here. First of all, from the leadership position across all the sectors, brokers, politicians, and everywhere, I think the ethical leadership is the key. By ethical leadership, I mean that from my own experience and my courses that I took for a 5-month course with the Harvard, my professor told me leadership definition with a very simplest term. 3H. You need to know your leader, 3H. Head, heart, hand. Head represents your thinking, vision, your mission, your strategy, your planning, all these things. That actually represents your H, that particular head. Heart, you have to be empathetic leader. Wherever you go, whatever the institutions are, be empathetic to your people, be empathetic to your employee, whatever. Even be empathetic to your parents. Even this is my particular pet topic. I can say that, but democracy will not take place in South Asia because we don't have democracy in our own family. Okay, that's a bigger issue. The third H actually is the H. This is the hand. Hand represents the skill. Can you actually develop a work plan? Can you do a kind of Excel sheet? Can we actually do it with the AI? Can we actually develop something like that? So once you have that 3H, you have the ethical leadership. So that actually from that part of the story, that's supply side. Okay. From the demand side, from the public, I would rather actually encourage the governments and all the bureaucrats to undertake massive public education programs. Because many of the public and the citizens, they do not know their constitutional rights. They do not know, many of the young group of people, who actually protested and everything, they do not know how does the government function. So that particular knowledge has to be transferred so that they can actually align with the system itself. Otherwise, you do not do the system, you simply cannot help with it. The third one actually is the middle part. The middle part is the third party. Please, do not shut out the media. Because I'm a media guy, I'm a journalist, I'm a former journalist, and I can actually, do not shut out the social media, do not shut out the civil society group of people, those who are criticizing you, listen to them. There's a value in it to listening, and active listening, and because active listening actually will give you a kind of a more human policy. That's the kind of the suggestion actually I could give it to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, with this, we come to one, we will go to the audience now. So we came to one understanding, so how we are moving from youth protest to voice to policy to delivery to legitimacy. So we will pick some questions from the audience, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, let's see, in first round, and then we will go to the second one. I request you to be very brief and identify, because these young generation, they don't have passion to listen long questions. So I request you to be very brief. There's a hand. I see there's also back there. There. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Namaste, everyone. It's me, Krishna Mohan Singh from Public Administration Campus. And I have question to our MP, Rahbar Ansari.
Okay.
And so I'm going to give a big congratulations to become a MP of Member of Parliament. And I have question, digital transformation को लागि आउँदै गरेको यही 2083 को ज्येष्ठ 15 गतेको बजेट वक्तमा डिजिटल क्रिप्टो डिजिटल उयो हैन युवालाई केन्द्रित गरेको क्रिप्टो पोलिसीको नीति र नेपालमा लागू गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ र के छ डिजिटल ट्रान्सफर्मेसनको नीति र वित्तीय क्षेत्रमा हजुरको लागि
One question is on digital transformation, digital transparency. Here's one hand. You see there? Okay, please. Yeah, volunteer, please make the mic ready and hand over.
Namaste to all. My question is to Honorable MP.
Expected.
Yes. My question is very short and sweet. How can we maintain the sustainability of great change by Gen Z movement? So again, there will be not big protest, big loss of.
Can you repeat your question?
Yes. How can we maintain the sustainability of the changes by Gen Z movement?
Okay. Sustainability
Yes.
of the changes that we were discussing. Okay. There, please.
My name is Swastika Timalsina, and my question is also to our Honorable MP.
One question to Pratishtha too, please.
Okay.
She is also
I
Gen Z.
will, but I have question for him. So, I have read history. Past revolutions like 2047 brought many policies like liberalization, privatization that brought changes in our country, significant changes. Now, what new policy, concrete policy, our new government will bring that will address our voice as a Gen Z, because our generation took you to the power, so we want concrete policy. What will be that? We never heard any concrete policy plan in your election campaign, so I want that answer.
Already frustration started, you know. Okay. There is okay, please.
Thank you, sir. सबैजनालाई नमस्ते मेरो चाहिँ प्रश्न के छ भने जस्तै हजुरहरूले
कसलाई
हजुरहरूमध्ये जसलाई यो कम्फर्टेबल लाग्छ
पोइन्ट गर्दैन लेट्स लिसन ओके
ओके
प्लिज
हजुरहरूले अब डेमोक्रेसीको कुरा गर्नुभयो त्यसमा पनि हामी सोसियल मिडियाको कुरा गऱ्यौँ यो सँगसँगै अब डेमोक्रेसीले चाहिँ सोसियल मिडिया थ्रुबाट चाहिँ अहिलेको जो हाम्रो सरकार हाम्रो नीति निर्माणहरू हुँदैछ त्यसमा पनि प्राय जेनेरेटेड एक्सपिरियन्सहरूको कुरा गऱ्यौँ हामीले रादर देन फेल्ट एक्सपिरियन्स अफ इन्डिभिजुअल र यो सँगसँगै लग्रेन्थमिक एन्जाइटी र एलोग्रेन्थमेटिक ब्यानिङको कुराहरू छ अहिले क्यापिटलिस्ट वर्ल्डहरूमा जबकि हाम्रो सोसियल मिडिया आफ्नो नहुँदाखेरि हामीले आफ्ना जनताहरूको आवाजलाई मात्रै सुनेको हो कि हामीले आफ्नै इकोहरू मात्र सुनेको यो चाहिँ मैले प्रश्न पारिदिन चाहन्छु र सोसियल मिडिया नै हो कि हाम्रो समाज सन्देह गर्न सक्ने प्लेटफर्म र अथवा हामीले जुन हाम्रो पुरानो कम्युनिटी मोडल थियो हेरिटेज सेन्ट्रिक मोडल त्यसमा जान सक्छौँ यो बारेमा चाहिँ हजुरहरूले प्रश्न पारिदिनु होला
थ्याङ्क यू यता यो फ्लोर यतातिर आउनु पर्यो हामी अब one more question है and then we will respond and then we will go to next round.
I think it's from this side.
Hey.
Both as a public servant and a youth of this country.
हजुर
I would like to put my question.
कसलाई हो
One is,
प्रश्न कसलाई
so I think it will relate both of you, the bureaucrat and the parliamentarian. So it's both for them. Of course, the code of conduct matters to everybody, and this is one of the aspiration of the community that we live in. And I think the code of conduct, the decorum of the parliament matters to the parliamenter and the one who are in the civil service. Of course, this is one of the aspirations. I wanted to put that. And the other question is that, will you allow another protest to happen? That was question that was from Mr. Alam, so I think that has to be answered by our parliamentarian. That is the another one. And maybe that was one of the... And the other thing that I think what our bureaucrat was trying to put down is that since our bureaucracy does not have to be very interrelated, our bureaucracy is based on our political and administrative dichotomy. We know that. But at the same time, taking it together and making it not so afraid and for the bureaucrats to take bold decision has to be a very sensitive issues that has to be addressed by the parliamentarians. So I just wanted to sum it up.
So in this round, we will take only this much question, and then we will go to second round again. I know, we have a lot of hands I can see there, but just to, on behalf of time, so we will lose many things. So let's respond first, and then we'll go to the second round. I think most of the questions are directed to you. Please.
I think I really need to take a one-day class here to make things more clear. All right, the first question I would like to answer is, we got a question from Mr. Krishna Mohan Singh, talking about whether cryptocurrency policy would be incorporated in the upcoming budget. So, in regards to cryptocurrency, we still do not have a policy at all. I would not say a clear policy, but we do not have any policy that addresses cryptocurrency as a legitimate currency in Nepal, unlike many other countries. It is not just about digital currency's existence or the value of digital currency that we need to think about, but we also need to think about various aspects that are connected to digital currency. We need to think about terrorism. We need to think about corruption, not just in this country, but we need to think about international corruption. There are matters that need to be addressed before we bring any concrete policy that legitimizes cryptocurrency. I think our finance minister is quite well qualified and quite well a learned person to handle this thing. It will definitely take some time, and if it is not just in the interest, but if it is beneficial for this country to economically grow, definitely this will be incorporated in the policy. If not, we are not in such a big hurry or rush to bring in cryptocurrency within the government policy right now. There is another question about the sustainability of the Gen Z protest. I would like to answer two questions together. One, the sustainability of the Gen Z protest, and will we be allowing another protest? Quite connected. So I have told, previously I told that since generations we have seen protests. Protests are of different types, different scale, different timings, and different issues. There is a rule, it's a Harvard rule, saying that if 3.5% of the people participate in a protest and it turns around the government or the system, it is considered to be that real protest, you know. Of course, like with issues, with events, there has been protests, and I told you that it is a feedback to democracy, it is a data to democracy. But how we take protests has been different in different times, in different countries. If I remember the Arab Spring, it started from Tunisia. Yeah. And the protest was just, it was a very simple thing. A fruit vendor was humiliated. A cart full of fruits was thrown, and a female police officer started beating him. He was humiliated, and that took such a big, that got so big that it was an Arab Spring. In some places, these protests actually changed the form of government. In some countries like Syria and Libya, it created more chaos.
Yeah, it reversed actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is not necessary that the protests always land up to what we have landed up today. Right? It could have been a bigger chaos. But luckily, and in contrast to what happened in Bangladesh, I would say, in Bangladesh, it was 18 months transition, and ours was 6 months. So even the Gen Z representation within the government, within the interim government, could not spoil themselves, like what happened in Bangladesh. So, of course, we will allow protests. Of course, we will allow people to give us feedback, to give us data. But the way the protests have been taken in the historically or in the past will not be the way we will take protests. We will absorb the protest, but not absorb in the sense that sometimes protests are absorbed by political elites. They
That is
absorb
not-
it,
that is not job, that
and
is
the protest
captured
gets,
actually.
yeah, it goes to zero, and then the political elites again start what they've been doing before. That will not be the situation now. Protests will be taken in a different way. It will be taken as a feedback, as a data to improvise the health of our democracy, I think. And sustainability about the Gen Z movement, of course, the changes. Very quickly, within 6 months, we could see big change. More than 60 parliamentarians young. It has not been, it's just not a proportionate representation demographically. It is a proportionate representation professionally too, I say.
Yeah.
We have people from diverse professions today representing the citizens in the parliament.
True.
We have people from diverse age groups. We have people from diverse clusters. We have a lot of female representation in the parliament.
True.
I think we should be quite positive and we should aspire a stronger democracy in future, thinking that this Gen Z evolution or this Gen Z event that happened could lead us to a big change. And I don't think so you would disagree in saying that from the very beginning of the formation of the government, within the first 24 hours, you could all notice changes that happened in this country.
True.
So let us expect great things to happen
Yeah.
with smaller steps.
There are two more questions. One is about social media, and another is about the.
There was a question about generated experiences versus the
Yeah,
felt
there is, yeah.
experiences.
Mm.
We are, this country is quite diverse. This country, there is a lot of culture, a lot of religion, a lot of ethnic groups, and geographically also we are quite diverse. Social media is not the conclusion, I would say. It doesn't conclude our condition. It doesn't conclude our geographical condition. It doesn't conclude our economic condition. It doesn't conclude our social or cultural conclusion, social status. It is a part of communication. As I said, democracy and communication cannot stand isolated. You cannot have democracy here and you cannot have communication there. On the base, the foundation is always communication.
Exactly, yeah.
And there is this communication, and on top of it is democracy. The way we communicate has toppled, actually. We used to communicate through editors, through editorials, through newspapers. But today we communicate individually. We have a lot of information, we have a lot of say, but how much weightage does our say have in policy is important. All young people are speaking out. All young people are representing something in their social media.
That's what I mean, like voice into policy.
But how much weight does that voice carry now again depends on the felt experiences.
Yeah, that's true.
Social media cannot decide solely what the policy is going to be. But of course, social media does have certain level of influence and it does give a pictorial representation of our society.
Two quick responses to two more questions. One is code of conduct in parliament, decorum, something like that. And another was like dichotomy between politics and the bureaucracy.
Yes. So of course, as a parliamentarian, when we swear, we have to maintain the code of conduct and decorum of the parliament. I said, or I meant in exceptional cases, when formalities try to undermine the rights of people, when our formalities and the code of conduct tries to undermine the expectations of people, our accountability, our answerability, that is the time sometimes we parliamentarians have to cross our limits. And it is at the cost of, or the risk is that I might get stripped off my position or power.
It may have consequences,
It may have consequences to me individually, but that would definitely have certain level of influence in the policy making. It will definitely have some kind of positive. It will be a positive stepping step towards public aspiration.
That's a trade-off, actually.
right?
No? That's a trade-off.
And the other question was that question from the same person was it was the political and administrative dichotomy that you talked about. Of course, the interrelation cannot be ignored. As I said, there has to be a symbiotic relationship between the public, the bureaucrats, and the politician. But the relationship should have certain boundaries. I can just give you a very recent. Yesterday, I had a talk with a senior police officer. I had to talk to him for a certain reason, and I said that one of your officer is quite aligned to a party, political party, based on the service delivery that you could not give yesterday to a group of people. I strongly feel that one of your officer, your subordinate, is aligned to a political party. So he has two options. Either he quit the political party, or he quit police service.
Wow.
I mean, I had to say this.
So easy.
I had to say this. That it's very easy. Either he has to quit his political alliance, or he has to quit his police service. He cannot take these two together. So of course, the challenge exists because of the traditional way of working from the bureaucrats and the traditional way of thinking by policymakers or the politicians. That is where I say we need to take a break now. We need to go a step further. Both bureaucrats and politicians, we are not interdependent. We are all in a mission to make the institutions stronger, to make better policies, and to have greater activities towards positive changes, right? But we have our limits. That's what I meant to say.
By breaking, what do you mean? Like breaking the legacy, or what is it?
Yes, of course, breaking the legacy, as in breaking the way the traditional politicians have been thinking. I am quite surprised. At times I'm very much surprised to see a bureaucrat who worked for like 30 or 35 years, and suddenly after retirement he becomes an extra nationalistic bureaucrat and he starts thinking about the nation.
Wow.
And then he starts giving consultations. And then he starts giving like his opinions in the news, in the media or in the interview, and says that the bureaucrats are not working and the politicians are not doing good. And the question that arises in my mind is, what did you do in the last 35 years when you were in service? How can someone become very patriotic suddenly after retiring?
Yeah. This is a big legitimacy question, exactly.
I know senior police officers during their senior times, when they were at their utmost seniority, they never went to their office. In the morning they went, after their breakfast they would go to a political leader, the powerhouses, and just do Jai Nepal to them. And we say it Ghar Dailo, going house to house of politicians and just showing their face, and they want the politicians to remember that he is in the line to become an IGP. And suddenly he retires and then he starts thinking about the nation. I think the right time to think about nation, the right time to be patriotic, and the right time to do good is when you are working. As a politician, as a bureaucrat, and as a public who's taking service from the government.
Or all the time.
Or all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
You breathe.
Yeah, great. So, I'll go to Pratishta and then come back to Professor Alam, and then we'll go to the second round. I'll start from the last question to you. Though it is not directed to you. So there was a term used, afraid. We are afraid of politicians. We are afraid of government. That is the voice from bureaucracy. What message does it carry to you? Are you really afraid?
No, sir. Did I mention that I'm afraid?
No, not from one of the audience. From audience, not you.
Okay, I misunderstood.
No, not you.
The afraid phrase might be used because we are in the system where we need to be inclined towards the political parties to get promoted or to get transferred to the good place. So we are not really afraid because we really want to work. We have come to work. But what I mean is we need that environment where we can work freely, and we cannot also deny the fact that both parliamentarians and the bureaucrats are there for the benefit of the people. So we both work in the favor of people. So we are here to deliver the services. We are here to deliver the policies that are prepared by the government. So we are really not afraid of the government. But saying this, we can also not deny the fact that the practices that has been happening, the amount of discrimination that is being made among the bureaucrats, so that creates some kind of scareness among us.
Okay, I got your point. Thank you. So I'll go to Professor Alam before I go to second round. So do you have any take on that one? One particular question. Will Bangladesh have another protest? It's working, I think. No?
Hello, hello.
Well, as I told you before, that there is a historically there is a shelf life of the movement, social movement or political movement. And if I take the history of the Bangladesh, 1952 and 1971, that's the 19 years, and then 1972 to 1990, another 19 years, and from there to 1992, we have this 2012, this another movement, that's another almost like another 17 or 16 years, and that actually has expedited by the social media, so that's there. But then again, taking the same cue from there, yes, there is likely to be a kind of another round of protest from Bangladesh, young group of people, because they are feeling that the current government is probably not listening to them. So there is a kind of objective criteria being developed, and then there is going to be probably in August or July, probably, because that's the anniversary of the Gen Z movements things, and the BNP government is not delivering in terms of some to that to extent. But then again, there's every likelihood that actually will happen.
True.
But let me just, because the floor actually had a lot of questions to the MPs and the brokers and everything, I just, because of the fact that I also just thought that, okay, since the governance discussion actually was going on, one of the important stakeholders among this particular governance framework all over the world is missing here. Is that particular group of people actually is the businessman. If we had the businessman here, they would have actually told different stories.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you see the bureaucrats? How do you see the politicians? Because in the governance framework, there's a formula called corruption triangle. And in each corruption triangle, there is the policymakers, there is the bureaucrats, and there's the businessmen. That tripartite corruption really happens. I have listened to some of the suggestion and the kind of even to commitment from the MPs and other young bureaucrats, but I did not hear a single word partnering with the government, with the people. Nobody talked about the partnering with the people. You're saying that actually we do that for this thing, but then what is your specific mechanism to do partnership with actually the people? That thing has to be harnessed to some extent. Well, and one challenge I would rather tell you did mention that one, but I'm not sure because you're alone actually not the full representation of the whole of our government. Is that don't turn the government into government of the social media, for the social media, by the social media. There has to be a system in place, and you harness the system, because if the Gen Z or any other they feel like that they can topple or dismantle any system, be sure to be prepared for that. Your system will also be dismantled.
Okay. Thank you once again. So we have now around 10 minutes time before we conclude it. So we can take a couple of questions. Okay, you have microphone, please. We start from here.
Hello? Yeah. My name is Rambabu Dhakal. Just to maybe in continuation of the, say, responses from both politician and our bureaucrat, I also happen to be the bureaucrat in the past. I have one feeling. The more and more frustration of the people arises on the basis of the mind, it is saying that the lawmaker is the lawbreaker. Whether the lawmaker is a parliamentarian, whether the lawmaker is a bureaucrat, administrator. And it is called PBC nexus. When there is a kind of this breaking of the law, then is a scale of the politicians, bureaucrats, corruption nexus. Why the law is broken? Simply for the benefit of those only two classes of the people in the society. And the professor rightly mentioned that so far is the tendency here, nobody talking about the sufferings, nobody talking about the people's daily living conditions. Even our 2 hours discussion here, we didn't talk about how the people of Nepal have been in the condition of living condition in this country. Price is rising. Every day life is becoming difficult.
Please be precise to the
Yes.
question.
My question, it's not a question, it's a suggestion. How our politician, which is
Okay.
a very young one, because I also come from Madhesh. I have heard you. You speaking in that time when you said that to make this corruption tourism in Janakpur. I come from Janakpur. So why I'm saying, how do you think as a young politician, you said you have an experienced one, in comparison with you, there are not like much experience as you are. So how you think that lawmaker would not be lawbreaker in the current parliament?
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Where the mic is now, please.
Am I audible?
Yeah, please.
Namaste, this is Ashmita Kharal. So, हाम्रो चाहिँ IIT, IIM, India Institute of Management and Indian Institute of Technology are providing job opportunity, right, for the MBA graduate. As an MBA graduate, I'm pursuing MBA from School of Management, Tribhuvan University. So from now, reformly formed government, what are the policy that what's the government policy? Are we able to, our government able to give us the opportunity for the internship and job placement, as TU has no placement right now? So what's the policy towards our newly reformed government? Over to you.
Yes, thank you.
Over to you.
Okay.
I'd like to add on.
So I'll come there, please.
No,
Please.
I'd like to add on. There is one model about three-party having collaboration, like university,
You mean
government.
this response to her or us?
No, for your.
To
for
question to us?
For
Okay.
everyone.
Okay.
For every panel, professor is also here. So there is a model like a university, private sector bureaucracy, and a government, where we can create a platform where we can do a collaboration for motivating the employee to stay inside the country and stopping the foreign employment. So how we three-party, we are from university, you are professor, we are MP. So how we'll collaborate on stopping this problem?
Okay.
Yes.
There are more hands, please. 2 more questions, I guess. 2 more questions. There is? Please.
Hello.
Go ahead.
नमस्ते मेरो नाम चाहिँ चक्रराज जोशी म अहिले कृषिमा चाहिँ मास्टर अफ एग्रिकल्चर इकोनोमिक्समा मास्टर गर्दैछु मेरो क्वेसन चाहिँ पोलिटिसियन र ब्युरोक्रेटिसियन दुइटैलाई छ उहाँले अघि भन्नुभएको थियो हाम्रो इकोनोमिक ग्रोथ चाहिँ अहिलेको महत्त्वपूर्ण स्ट्र्याटेजी हो भनेर हाम्रो देशको 1/4 GDP चाहिँ र 60% अफ पपुलेसन चाहिँ एग्रिकल्चरले कभर गरेको छ यसमा चाहिँ अब माननीय ज्यूको हिसाबले हाम्रो जुन पोलिसी फर्मुलेसन र पोलिसी अपडेटमा छ जुन हाम्रो एग्रिकल्चरमा आउटडेटेड पोलिसीहरू छन् त्यस्तो पोलिसीहरूलाई चेन्ज गर्न र नयाँ पोलिसीहरू फर्मुलेसन गर्न संसदमा उहाँको भूमिका चाहिँ के रहनेछ भन्ने कुरा उहाँलाई प्रश्न छ त्यसैगरी हाम्रो ब्युरोक्रेटिसियनलाई पनि अर्को प्रश्न यसैसँग रिलेटेड छ एउटा किसानले चाहिँ सर्भिस लिन जाँदा चाहिँ किसानले भन्दा जुन अन्य कुनै सुटबुट लागेको मान्छेले चाहिँ फास्ट सर्भिस डेलिभरी पाउँछ तर किसानले त्यो सर्भिस डेलिभरी चाहिँ एकदमै ढिलो पाइरहेको हुन्छ यो अवस्थामा चाहिँ तपाईको सर्भिस डेलिभरीमा चाहिँ किसान र अन्य व्यक्तिहरूलाई गर्ने जुन बिहेभियर छ त्यो चाहिँ कसरी चेन्ज हुन्छ भन्ने सोध्न चाहन्छु
One final question. Where's the mic nearby? There is. Okay. There is. Please. Final, please.
Hi, this is Susmita Acharya from Public Administration Campus. To solve the problem raised by the students of TU, my suggestion to the government is you have to establish a skill inventory bank so that the young people can work. You can work on it. Thank you.
Please. Yeah. This is not the question, right? There is a question now. Please.
Okay. Thank you. मैले सोध्न खोजेको चाहिँ क्वेसन नै हो सबैभन्दा पहिला नवनिर्वाचित मान्यज्यूलाई हार्दिक बधाई दिन चाहन्छु। उहाँले हाम्रो उमेर समूहको पनि नेतृत्व गर्नुहुन्छ अनि प्रतिष्ठा म्याडमलाई पनि धेरै धेरै बधाई हैन। म चाहिँ अहिले त्रिभुवन युनिभर्सिटीमा पब्लिक पोलिसी गभर्नेन्स एन्ड एन्टी करप्सन स्टडिज गर्दैछु। हाम्रो यो सबै टिमकै तर्फबाट क्वेसन छ दुवैजनालाई, हाम्रो कर्मचारी मिसलाई पनि र मान्यज्यूलाई पनि। पहिलो क्वेसन चाहिँ प्रतिष्ठा मिसलाई, यो चाहिँ मैले करप्सनको भ्यूबाट मैले क्वेसन सोध्न खोजेको, अन्यथा नलिनु होला। अहिले नेपालमा अधिकृतको तलब चाहिँ 43,689 रुपियाँ रहेछ। यसबाट काठमाडौँमा तपाईँलाई बसेर सस्टेन गर्नलाई कतिको सहज छ? अप्ठ्यारो छ कि सहज छ है?
This is an honest question, है, एकदम honest question हो, please.
त्यसपछि मान्यज्यूलाई अर्को क्वेसन। मान्यज्यूलाई मेरो क्वेसन चाहिँ सङ्घीय निजामती सेवा ऐनसँग रिलेटेड छ। यहाँहरूले त्यो 100 पोइन्ट्समै ल्याउनु भएको छ कि सङ्घीय निजामती विधेयकलाई हामी 100 दिनभित्रै टेबल गर्छौँ, यसलाई चाहिँ छलफलमा लिएर आउँछौँ भन्नुभएको छ। अलि अगाडि मैले सम्झना गर्छु कि यसमा अलिकति कुलिङ पिरियडको विवाद थियो होइन। त्यति बेला साना कर्मचारीलाई अनि ठुलो कर्मचारीलाई चयन जस्तो देखिने हिसाबले त्यो विधेयकमा छलफल भइरहेको थियो। सायद त्यहाँ पछि मिसअन्डरस्ट्यान्डिङ
Please be specific, so we are running out of time.
अब हजुरहरूले यो बिल ल्याउनु हुँदाखेरि त्यो 2 वर्षको जुन कुलिङ पिरियड छ त्यो राखेर ल्याउनुहुन्छ कि हटाएर ल्याउनुहुन्छ? यति मात्र क्वेसन। थ्याङ्क यू।
Thank you. We end questions here, please. There are a lot of hands, but we cannot go long and long. So after the question, after this session, there will be again, we will meet in tea and somewhere like that. You can ask there. Please, again, a lot of questions are directed to you.
First, the first question, I think there was more of a suggestion from Mr. Rambabu Dakal. He said that no one talked about public service. The only things we talked about was bureaucracy and politicians or the parliament.
That's my fault. I didn't direct you there.
But I kept saying in the whole discussion that there has to be a symbiotic relationship between 3 components: public, bureaucrats, and politicians. When I said public, I always meant public service. The thing we talk about, when we talk about frustration, when we talk about the Gen Z feeling cheated, it is because of the public service, it is because of the corruption, it is because of the perception of people that the Gen Z represented, we are here today. I think this was your concern more than a question, I think. And how do you make sure that lawmakers are not law breakers? The very founding principle that we need to adhere to is our integrity. म सधैँ भन्छु कि इमानमा रहेर काम गऱ्यो भने सबै कुरा आफै ठिक हुँदै जान्छ. This thing has been missing amongst lawmaker a lot. Integrity has been not of a primary importance component to any lawmaker, almost any lawmaker I would say. But with the uprising of with the new parliamentarians coming in the parliament, I said in an interview 3 days back that what is the difference between parliamentarians before and today? I said before the parliamentarians in the parliament would discuss amongst themselves about the salary, about the benefits you get being a parliamentarian. Today the parliamentarians amongst each other are discussing what input we could give to our constituency, what new we could do to the country. So there is a cultural shift now. I think this is changing for sure. Another question was from Ms. Ashmita Kharal about the placement policy. I know this is very sad. See, I come from Birganj. We have a Trivandrum University campus called Thakuram campus in Birganj. I have done my master's in public policy and I have just done 1 master's. From Thakuram, I meet a lot of students who've done 3 or 4 masters. Masters in political science, masters in business studies, masters in economics, masters in anything. You name a subject there and people have a master's degree. But then they need to come to us and say that Netaji malai chahi jagir laidinu pareko hai bhaner. I mean, they need politicians, political support, power, backup for job. This is because they've not been able to work on their skills. They've not been market ready. Of course, the market has not been able to absorb people like you who's already skilled and doing a nice course from a nice reputed university. For this, the thing is that we have to increase our economic activity. We have to bring in policies wherein people from this country, if we have a specific set of skills, we do not import workers from outside for the same set of skills that we already have. This practice has to be discouraged, this practice has to be stopped. And as someone suggested about skills bank, this could really add to it. This could really add to it. And the other thing where we really need to work on is our educational system. I would like to mention that I was a student of Kathmandu University School of Management for 1 trimester and I dropped out. Before that, I did my BBA from India, and when I joined MBA in Kusum, I thought I am repeating the same course again. And after a trimester, I just dropped and I said, this is not my cup of tea because I've already drank that cup of tea. So I wanted something different. I wanted some more inputs. I wanted to empower myself with my skills, with my knowledge, and it was just a repetition. I think this repetition has to stop. We have to be more practical. Our courses have to be more data-driven, more market-oriented, and more global. We need to work on skills, we need to work on education policy, and then we need to work on our economic growth policy. And I think there was another question.
About Civil Service Act, I think.
I'm sorry, about the agriculture.
Oh, agriculture,
Mr. Chakraraj Joshi. So he said that 1/4 of our GDP comes from agriculture and 60% of our population are engaged in agriculture. What would I do as a parliamentarian in improving the state of agriculture in Nepal? So basically, I am from Bara. For my constituency, like it is more than 80% people into agriculture. Traditionally, what we see is that there are a lot of policies that the government brings in agriculture which are directed towards farmers, which are directed towards entrepreneurs who are into agriculture. But these policies, these benefits, these subsidies are actually not going there. There is a lot of leakages. People who are supposed to be the direct beneficiary of these policies, these subsidies, the benefits, are really not getting it. Me as a parliamentarian, as a representative of a constituency, I would make sure that my people and the budget, the benefits that the budget has aspired to give, I would try to align that as much as possible for my constituency. And I think one way we could really, I would raise voice is that there has to be a digital way of giving benefits to the farmers. Why would a farmer prepare a file full of pages and run around offices and beg for subsidy? I think things have to be digitalized. I know that the capacity of our farmers would not be, the digital capacity of our farmers are not in that standard right now, but we could still establish centers within villages where the documents could be uploaded and then the benefits could directly go to their account. I think I would advocate for this policy, and I've already been studying this policy and talking to some IT companies to integrate the benefits to the direct accounts of farmers, and there should be no middlemen, or there should be no one who takes the benefit, and there should be no cosmetic policy for farmers in this country. It should be objective and concrete.
The final one is about Civil Service Act, I think.
Yeah, in the Civil Service Act, about the cooling period, of course, there was a lot of controversy about the 2 years cooling period. I think the new Civil Service Act that would be tabled in the Parliament would take care of that. Personally, if you ask me, I really think that the cooling period should be there. I mean, to me personally, as a politician, I would say that without the cooling period, it is unjust, it is unfair to send a freshly retired a bureaucrat to a constitutional space wherein he's given a bigger responsibility. And there also comes a lot of issues about the data privacy, about the information, about the intelligence that that particular person possesses. And there has to be a certain time. For example, the chief of police has a lot of information and intelligence that he's not, I mean, in some countries, you are restricted to meet people, you are restricted to go to public events,
Exactly,
even if you're retired for a certain period of time. That is a cooling period. So here, if you talk about the Public Service Act, I think this has to be incorporated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will go to Professor Alam, and then finally I'll come to Pratishtha. Please, very briefly. We have like less than 5 minutes. Please.
All right.
There is no any specific question, but one question I'd like to draw you there is, so how can we engage the academia, government, market, for creating employment for the students? Yeah.
Well, first of all, this requires the mutual respect, according to my experiences, because the bureaucrats actually are very much against the policy recommendations from the academia. They actually really dislike, because they feel like that it is their domain. Why the academia is talking about the policy reform? And if you just take the examples of your own country, my country, any country, what are the percentages of the recommendations from the research point of view that policy recommendations came from the academia, and how many of that one actually translated into real policy or the actions? 0.001% probably. So respect for each other is very crucial for whatever the sector you are in, and that is where the situation lies. Is that that the government being the kind of the biggest entity, nobody is bigger than the government, and that particular mammoth kind of the structure in the system actually has its own limitations also at the same time, because it puts off the real people to come forward. Even from the bureaucracy, they will not come forward. Even from the business group of people, they will not come forward, because of the fact that there are a lot of repressive tools in the hands of the government. Government is an entity, if it wishes, it can drag the dead people's history from the survival of the body and everything. Yeah, okay. So it happens when the politics actually predominates everything and the politicians actually talks about this thing. But the reality is, from my sector, the journalism, communication, and the media, I understand only one thing, simple. Theory is always differ with the practice. That's where actually I lie. So I remember that if we're talking about the people and everything, I'm not sure whether you were actually live broadcasting this or not, but I think if you had actually broadcast live, I think that you would have been actually deluged with the kind of the expression from the public at what actually you're talking here. You're talking in a kind of a sitting position, all the theories you're talking about, but my reality is quite different. So the definition of corruption for people like us, academia, and the people's definition of corruption is something different. So the narrative, actually, the cultural narrative, people, the simple example is that you are I'm myself being a kind of a faculty, or say I'm a former government officials, the kind of the person who writes to me, dear sir, and with the respectfully or sincerely, okay, that very term is very problematic. That particular narrative and the language is problematic, because I have assumed and acknowledged that, okay, that particular person actually has the highest position, I have to obey them.
That is a regimented idea, actually.
It's a legacy that SAR culture, that SAR culture, you have to address the sir. Go to the West, go to any private sector in the West, how may I help you, sir? That's the first point they will tell you. I've been in the UK for 4.5 years for my PhD program. Everywhere I went, the private sector people were serving the public. They would ask the simple question, how may I help you, sir? But in this country, in this scenario, in the subcontinents, sir means sir. Okay? So what can you do when you have a mismatch of the communication between the supply side and the demand side? So, well, we have talked a lot, but then again, the conclusion from my side, theory is always differ from the practice.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Pratishtha, you have two questions, and they're very powerful questions. One is, both of them are powerful. One is like, how will you make sure that you will not discriminate, between someone who looks very attractive, well-dressed, and actually the real service provider? How will you try to maintain that? Second is, the big story everyone wants to hear, is that money enough for you? Please.
सुरुमा चाहिँ म सरको प्रश्न, जोशी सरको प्रश्नतिर म आउन चाहेँ हैन। उहाँले चाहिँ एउटा सामान्य किसान र सुटेड बुटेड सेवाग्राहीहरू बीच हुने विभेद चाहिँ कसरी समाधान गर्नुहुन्छ, अथवा यहाँको तर्फबाट त्यो हुन्छ कि हुँदैन भन्ने थियो। सो यही विभेद रहित सेवा प्रवाहकै लागि चाहिँ आज हामी यहाँ उपस्थित भएका छौँ हैन। एज अ यङ ब्युरोक्राट हाम्रो आवश्यकता त्यही भएर नै महसुस भएको होला सायद, विभेद रहित सेवा प्रवाहका लागि विभेद रहित सेवा प्रवाहका लागि चाहिँ खासमा यो 3 P'मा चाहिँ फोकस गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई। एउटा भनेको चाहिँ प्रेसिजन हो। प्रेसिजन भनेको अब विभेद रहित, सरल, प्रभावकारी, जति पनि हामी यस्ता खालका वर्डहरू युज गर्छौँ, यस्ता खालका सेवा प्रवाह गर्नका लागि चाहिँ सुरुमा पोलिसी, कानुन, कार्यविधिबाट नै यो सम्बोधन गरिनुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ। त्यसपछि अर्को आउँछ, अर्को P भनेको चाहिँ प्रोफेसनलिजम हो। प्रोफेसनलिजम चाहिँ हामी कर्मचारीहरूका यी व्यावसायिक मूल्य मान्यता, यी पेशागत व्यावसायिकताहरूका कुराहरू आउँछन्, आचरणका कुराहरू आउँछन्। यो चाहिँ हामी आफैले पनि सुधार गर्नुपर्ने कुरा हो। यो हामी आफैमा सुधार योग्य पाटो छ। यो मेरो तर्फबाट चाहिँ म विभेद रहित सेवा प्रवाह गर्छु भन्ने प्रतिबद्धता नै छ। अर्को P'मा आउँछ प्रक्सिमिटी। प्रक्सिमिटीमा जब यो सेवा प्रवाह जनताको घर दैलोसम्म पुग्छ, जनताको घर नजिक पुग्छ, उहाँहरूले चाहिँ सरल सहज रूपमा सेवा प्रवाह विभेद रहित ढङ्गले सेवा लिन सक्नुहुन्छ। त्यसैले सेवालाई, यो सार्वजनिक सेवालाई विभेद रहित बनाउन, सरल, मितव्ययी, प्रभावकारी, जति पनि हामी 3 E's का कुरा गर्छौँ होइन, यसका लागि चाहिँ यो 3 P'मा पनि काम गर्नुपर्ने आवश्यकता देखिन्छ। सो अर्को प्रश्न थियो स्यालेरीले सस्टेन गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने प्रश्न। स्यालेरीले डेफिनेटली अब सस्टेन गर्न काठमाडौँ जस्तो जहाँ एकदमै इन्फ्लेसन रेट एकदमै हाई छ होइन, त्यसमा सस्टेन गर्न अलिकति गाह्रो नै स्थिति होला।
अनेस्टली भनिदिनु है, बजेट बन्दैछ, एमपी हुनुहुन्छ होइन।
ओके, आइएम कमिङ टु यु सर। यसमा चाहिँ कस्तो हुन्छ भनेर भन्दाखेरि एउटा परिवारवाला मान्छे जो चाहिँ एकजना मात्र ब्रेड विनर हुन्छ फ्यामिलीको, उहाँ चाहिँ निजामती सेवामा अथवा सरकारी सेवामा आउनुभयो भने यो तलबले डेफिनेटली सस्टेन गर्न गाह्रो, सस्टेन नै त गर्न गाह्रो हुँदैन। तर स्यालेरी भनेको, पैसा भनेको यो आफ्नो लाइफस्टाइलले पनि म्याटर गर्छ। आफ्नो लाइफस्टाइल आफूले कस्तो लाइफस्टाइल आफूले चुज गरेको छु भन्ने कुराले पनि यसले पनि डिटरमाइन गर्ने कुरा भयो। एउटा ल्याभिस लाइफस्टाइल बाँच्नको लागि त डेफिनेटली पनि पुग्दैन, तर एउटा सरल जीवनयापनको लागि चाहिँ ठिकै छ जस्तो लाग्छ। तर ह्याभिङ सेड दिस, हामी यहाँ सरकारी सेवामा प्रवेश गरेका छौँ देश र जनताको बृहत्तर हित प्रवर्धन गर्ने भनेर, त्यसरी यो सेवा प्रवाहलाई अलिकति सुधार गर्ने भनेर प्रवेश गर्दै गर्दाखेरि त्यो स्यालेरी मात्रै डिटरमाइनिङ फ्याक्टर हुनु हुँदैन जस्तो मलाई लाग्छ। तर यदि भनिरहँदाखेरि पनि साथीहरूको धेरै गुनासो हुन्छ स्यालेरी बढेन भनेर। डेफिनेटली 3 वर्षमा यो तलब चाहिँ पुनरावलोकन हुनुपर्ने, तलब बढ्नुपर्ने कुराहरू छ। आज मान्यज्यूको उपस्थिति यहीँ रहेको छ, त्यसैले यहाँले चाहिँ अहिले अब बजेटको टाइम पनि छ, सो यहाँले मेरो मात्रै होइन, मैले प्रतिनिधित्व गर्दै आउने धेरै समूहहरू हुनुहुन्छ, सो यहाँको कुरा चाहिँ यहाँले संसदसम्म लगिदिनुहुन्छ भन्ने अपेक्षासहित थ्याङ्क यू।
Finally, you came to that point. Really, this incentive matters, I think, incentive matters. Then what we need to find in my understanding is we have to identify the leakage of these incentives, So where those leakages are, then if we actually correct those leakages, maybe we can increase disposable salary, easily. So I think the government is looking on that, I think. Well, I wanted to take this panel a little bit longer, but it has been already 2 hours, and for all of us adults, it is really, interesting but difficult to stand, these all things there. But you were wonderful. We went through together there. So finally, let me, before closing, so let me just try to wrap up this once, what exactly that means. We need to understand that this youth protest is not a disruption or not a problem at all. This is a signal. And it does not mean that, so we had youth protest, in last September, and that is the end. It does not mean. So it may take in different forms, it may continue. And we also have to understand youth is not simply the age group. It is about thinking. So how we can have youthful thinking, and then we can institutionalize the youth thinking in our system. That is another big question we need to think. And the challenge is not the youth energy. So youth has come with the greater speed. That is not the challenge. But how does our institution absorb that energy? And how does our institution actually multiply or make out of that energy? I think that it matters a lot on that one. So once again, so our theory is protest, and then voice, then to the policy, then to the delivery, and finally to the legitimacy. That is what we have to build on. So once again, thank you to all these panelists. So let's give a big round of applause for all this great panelists. We will continue this discourse. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Trilochan Pokharel sir, and our panelists today. Now I would like to request our respected Executive Director, sir, Mr. Ram Sharan Purasaini, to hand over the token of love to our panelists, to Honorable Rahabar Ansari, to Honorable Rahabar Ansari, Member of Federal Parliament. Thank you so much. Similarly, to a big round of applause to Dr. Rezwan Ul Alam, Associate Professor and Chair, Department of Media, Communication and Journalism, North-South University. Thank you, sir. And to Ms. Pratishtha Subedi, Section Officer of the Government of Nepal. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, and thank you to all our distinguished guests and participants for a rich and engaging discussion today. With this, we come to the close of day one of the conference. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow for the breakout sessions and the closing panel. Registration and breakfast will open at 7:45 a.m., followed by technical parallel sessions from 9 a.m. Participants from Nepal, Bangladesh, India, and Sri Lanka will present their papers across 6 thematic areas, ranging from public administration and digital governance to climate resilience and youth leadership. Alongside this, we will also have thematic presentation in the form of art by students of Kathmandu University School of Arts, Department of Art and Design. Information about the technical sessions and their venues is available in the abstract book. Our volunteers will also be happy to guide you to the halls, so please look out for them if you need any help tomorrow. Once again, thank you all, and we wish you a pleasant evening. We now warmly invite you to join us for high tea outside. In the dining area.